couple of other things to note in this same toolbar. If we switch back to our rectangle marquee, switch to that, and let's just change our feathering back to 0. Typically, you want to make a straight edge marquee, so you're probably not going to change that all too often. But there's some other things we should look at in this box, and the style is one that I want to just point out. We can choose fixed ratio, and in this case, the numbers that are typed in are 2 to 1, so twice as wide as it is high. Obviously, you can change that, but when you do this, any rectangle that you drag out, your marquee is going to be twice as wide as it is tall. Another option in this drop-down is the fixed size. And this is where you quite literally put in a size. So we could say I want it to be 3.3 inches, IN. Notice that pixels were last showing 64 by 64. So I'm just going to change this to a random number. But I'm typing in the IN for inches. So now I'm going to get exactly a 3 by 3 by a 125. And one click does it. You don't even need to drag it out. So those are some options up here. When and how you would use them in what situation is kind of limited. So switch back to the normal option, 0 pixels, and we're back at the kind of the default behavior. The other thing we can see are these options up here. And this was drawing the original new selection. This other one will add to it every time you keep marqueeing. So an example, if I switch to this, that just added to that. So as I'm drawing squares, it's continuing to make the selection. If I were to fill this, that's the selection that I made by adding to. If you choose subtract from, notice the marching ants are still around the selection. So now it's going to do a subtract from that selection. And I think it'll show up better if we start on a clean spot here. So I'm going to switch back to this main tool and just click away. Now if we go to this subtract from version or take away, if we draw a shape and then in this mode we say take away, it's going to knock out that piece. And then the final version is the intersection of, so it's only going to leave the intersection of the 2 points. Honestly, it's going to be better for you just to use keyboard shortcuts and stay in this original mode. So switch back to this original mode, which is just a selection. And we're going to make, actually I'm going to go back to my history panel and clear this out so I have more room to practice. If you have plenty of room, no worries. But again, oh come on mouse. And then go to the, oh boy. I just launched the character panel, even though I didn't mean to do that, and I'm getting the spinning beach ball of death. So, there are days. Okay, here we go. I really want the history panel, and I just want to go back to my first spot. I'm going to undo all of these steps to a blank document. All right, so with our rectangle marquee in the regular behavior, we're just going to drag out a house, a rectangle. We're going to make a house. To add to the selection, we're going to hold Shift. So we're going to add a chimney right here. So hold Shift, let go of your mouse, then the Shift key. To take away from a selection, you hold the Option key. So we're going to hold down Option, and we're going to make a window, and another one, still holding Option, and a door. Then I let go of my mouse, let go of the Option key. To fill in our selection, let's do that again. Option, Delete. And it knows what parts we deselected or took out. So that's basically going all the way back to our white canvas back here. We've just filled in these parts with blue. The select and mask is something that we'll get to later in this book when we work with masking some things, especially hair. One last thing I want to share with you are the keyboard selections to make a donut. I feel like we just did this in Illustrator, so if you're in that class as well, same idea but different way of doing it. So let's switch to the elliptical marquee, and remember we're typically using this to select pixels that are already in a picture. Now that we're doing it, we're using it to select pixels and fill them with a color, but a shape tool would work better in reality. So what we're going to do is make a perfect circle from the center out. So to make a circle, it has to be Shift, and from the center out, you have to hold Option. So make a perfect circle from the center out, let go of the mouse, and then let go of your modifier keys. Now kind of eyeball yourself back into the middle of this, and we're going to begin to Option drag, which tells Photoshop that we want to take away from the selection. So Option, you see the minus sign come up, and we're going to start to drag, but then we're going to let go of the Option but not the mouse. Let go of Option, not mouse. Keep the mouse down, and we're going to hit Option again and continue dragging, and Shift to make it a perfect circle. The first time we clicked Option was to tell it to deselect or take away from the selection. Once it was in that mode, we let go, and then we hit Option again, and that told it to go from the center outward, so it did pick the perfect center. And then I also added Shift to it, because without Shift I don't have any, it's not a perfect circle. But by holding Shift, Option, I get a perfect circle from the center out. And then again, you let go of your mouse and then your keys. And if you fill that in, you should get a donut shape. And there it is. So practice with those keyboard shortcuts, making selections, adding to them by holding Shift, taking away from them by holding Option or Alt, and filling in your selection with a color when you're done. And then to practice the donut, Option Shift drag with the perfect circle from the center out, then come back and eyeball the center and click Option as you shift. That puts you in the takeaway mode. Let go of Option, hit it again, and then it knows it should be from this inside out, centered out. And you add Shift to keep it perfectly symmetrical. So we are done with this practice file. Practice with these marquee tools until you feel comfortable with them. And we're going to move on to the next family of selection tools, which is the lasso.